So let's get into our discussion for today. Some key points, any day now, key points that I lifted up from today's chapter. The responsibility to hold it all together is a form of suffering. And I think that the use of the word suffering is so strong. What do y'all think about that? Like, but then he says you don't think it's suffering because you're comparing it to what you would consider to be suffering. You may think about suffering as like someone who's sick and shut in or in the hospital or just like in a very deeply dark emotional or mental state. But he's saying that no, you're suffering too because you didn't put this pressure on yourself to hold it all together. And what are you doing that for? I thought that was so interesting. Just such a shocking way to say that. Because if you are making it day to day, right? If you're maintaining, I'll use myself as an example. When I worked at the charter school, can I show this? I need a producer too, because this is crazy. Being self-produced is a lot of work. Okay. When I worked at the charter school, family, this is circa I don't know how many years ago, but the predominant emotional state that I woke up in every day was the state of anxiety, right? Every freaking night and every freaking day, right? I was waking up like in this state of anxiety because working at that charter school was terrifying. No, seriously, like that shit was scary. It was high stakes. It was such a high stakes environment. It was highly competitive. It was so many things that's just really against my natural way of being. And um I was going to work every day. Majority of the days I would be on time. I would stay late sometimes to prepare. I always had my lesson plans were always submitted on time. And I didn't realize I didn't have a cam here. My bad. But if anyone is looking at that graphic and wants to me to move, let me know and I'll take the cam away for a second. But I was going to work every day and I was being responsible. My lesson plans were submitted on time and I was doing my paperwork. I was doing all the things and I was paying bills and taking care of home and being social, right? Having fun in my life. I was laughing, I was smiling. Things were happening that were good. So if someone were to, like, if this guy, Michael A. Singer, had a bird's eye view in my life. Hey, retro recaps. If he be, you better sit there, keep your behind right there in that front row seat, and don't you get up. But retro recap. Hey, it's so good to see you. Tiffy, once you here, and you settled in class, baby girl, you been you don't you go try to sharpen no pencil. Don't you go try to sharpen no pencil, and don't you be letting retro recap sharpen his pencil. Not in my classroom. It's like, no, y'all can do what y'all want, but not. But can y'all wait until after class? Damn. I'm sending some love to Retro. Y'all check out Retro Recap. He was just recently doing a podcast on his channel before he went on break. He'll be back real soon. So y'all make sure y'all get ready for his return and debut. Yes, Tiffy B came to class late today, Retro. But she sits in the front row of the classroom and she came and sat down and she was chilling. And I talked about that and she said she only sits in the back when you're here. And so now that you're here, I just want to remind her that since she's here now, to remain in the front row. We don't need pencils at this time. There's no need to go into the back and sharpen a pencil, and we can wait and sharpen yours later. Capiche? I was talking about the predominant emotional state that I was in when I worked at the charter school. And if this guy, Michael A. Singer, if he had like a peek into my life, he would have probably said, "Girl, don't you know you're suffering?" And I'd have been like, "No." So I think that language is jarring for a reason, and I'm not upset at it. Retro, guess what I got? I will give you three guesses. Retro recap to guess what I have, because I was waiting for you to come in because you're here. We get to do a live taste test that you inspired, and so I'm glad you came in because when we finish our discussion, we're going to get right to our live taste test, and I'm super excited. Yes, you are correct. I did get them. I got, do you know which ones I got? Today, when I placed my grocery order, I saw them and I said, well, since they are here, I got to follow through. So that's that. What I got them. Yes, I did, baby. Yes, I did. You are correct. Give Retro a sticker, y'all. So when we finish our discussion, I am going to. I'll be here. Kick it with me, or I'll call you so you can come back and see the live taste test. Okay. And thank you for the recommendation. I'm excited too. I'm excited too. Then I saw that they have that Lay's has kettle cooked mesquite barbecue. I didn't know. So there's a difference. The kettle cook is mesquite now. So I don't know. Maybe I'll try those out too. So, okay, let's get back to our discussion real quick so we can get to that part, y'all. So, where am I? I didn't want to go to the next slide yet. Okay, I want to still stay here. So, okay, um, this self concept is built upon the things that we cling to, and what we build to define ourselves is not who we are. So this was big for me. That which we cling to, that helps to form the self concept, is also based on very specific personal meanings that we have about everything. For example, listen to this example. I'm getting like Singer with my examples. When we get with a new partner and things start to get serious, so serious that we're willing to exchange I love yous, does that even mean the same thing to both partners? You know what I'm saying? To one partner, showing love could mean, or showing love or being loving could mean providing, protecting, being available. Like when you call, when you call me, I'm there. Um, Being physically present, right? And to the other partner in this situation, showing love and being loving could mean the exchange of gifts or lots of attention. Not so much when you call, when you call they answer, but more they're constantly calling you, right? That's different. You being stable and being there when I call you is different from you always calling me. That's incongruent, and if I don't know how to look at it right, so look, what happens when this person doesn't receive the level of attention from their partner that they equate with feeling loved? Do they begin to question their partner's love for them? Does it mean that their partner doesn't love them, or does it mean that they don't love them in a way that they only love them in a way that they know how to love? So like by clinging to the idea that love can only be felt and expressed in this one way, this attention loving partner could falsely believe that their partner don't love them because they're clinging to the idea that love looks like this. If my man loves me, he's going to call me all the time. And he could be like, I don't have to call her all the time, but she knows that if she calls me, I'm going to always pick up. But by her not receiving the phone call from him, she's like questioning it, right? Because she's clinging to that. So that's just an example. Exploring this is how we get to know ourselves. So then when you start to cling to that, and you stop and you can answer that question. Well, why was I clinging to that? What happened to make me feel like I had to go down that path? And then we get to make a choice. Can I be with someone who approaches love differently from the way that I do, or not? Does it need to be matchy, or can I respect that they hold love and show love and receive love in this way is different from me, and we can be together. So yes, that's my takeaway from that, and just a quick example. What are your thoughts on that? Just you can feel free to type them in the chat. Don't be shy. More key points. People have a facade. This one was crazy to me, because how many of us have heard or said that before, that you can't wait to go home so you can go really be yourself, or you can't wait to go home to be with your family so you can really be comfortable. People have facades and that they publicly talk about In the teachers lounge, I used to hear that all the time. um I can't wait to go on break so I can be with my family and recharge. you know the work self is different from the home self, and then that home self is different from the self that I gave up to be with my friends, and so on and so on. um he also said that people create a person to be based on many factors, including society and programming. And I made a note about this when I was reading it the first time, and then I wanted to take that a little step further, um, and ask y'all what y'all thought about this. Um, I don't remember what page I got this post-it note from. Oh, here it is. Um, he says, um, if you get that model down absolutely right and behave consistently every time, you have actually created someone. Um, and if the someone you create is what others want and need, you can be very popular and successful. You are that person. It got ingrained in you at a very young age, and you never deviated from it. And one of my questions was, that came up was, what are some of those things that reinforce that, like creating it from a young age. And then he talked about how, um, he says it's important to realize that it's not just up to you what thoughts you cling to and what person you create. Society has a lot to say about this. There are acceptable and unacceptable social behaviors for almost everything: how to sit, how to walk, how to speak, how to dress, how to feel about things. Here's the question, y'all. How does our society ingrain these mental and emotional structures within us? When you do it well, you're rewarded with hugs and showered with positive accolades. When you don't do it well, you're punished either physically, mentally, or emotionally. So when I first read this chapter, I answered that question of, how does our society ingrain these mental and emotional structures within us? Feel free to chime in. I'm not trying to just talk at y'all. I would love to create a dialogue and get what y'all think about these concepts as well. That's no pressure. If you're like, City, I don't think nothing about the concepts, I just want to be here with you, that's fine. But my answer to that question is, what ways does society ingrain this? Traditional school models, for one, that whole entire grading system, every fucking thing about compulsory traditional schooling ingrains that in you, that you have to create a different person to be, because nothing about that school system is natural for any of us. Okay? I spent my entire professional career working in schools and classrooms. I promise you, ain't shit natural about that. Don't y'all know? I had a student one time in a charter school. Well, most of my horror stories come from the charter school experience. I had a student who had a lot of energy, and I noticed that she gave me the most, not even gave me, she gave herself the most room to concentrate on any type of academic work task when she was also actively moving around. So I noticed that and wouldn't force or enforce her to remain seated during seat work time. It's called seat work, right? And one of the rules of the school and the classroom is that children must remain seated to work. But when she would sit down, she would become distracted, and she would, by her own distraction, she would distract everybody else, picking up pencils and looking on this paper and just everything else, right? But doing the assignment. But I noticed that when she would like stand up and kind of like, sometimes she was a tiny little thing, and she would stand up and balance her wrists on the table and just like bounce on her toes back and forth. And when I would notice her doing that, she would be reading, and I would look over and I would say, hey, check in with me and like tell me what you think about this. And then she would answer a question that I knew that she could only have answered if she was reading a fucking book. Excuse my language. I curse on this channel too. So don't excuse my language. It's my channel. If you don't like cursing, mute me or go away. So one time, one of the admins came in a classroom, not the channel. I said that because what if one of them comes into my channel one day? Yeah, well, they going to hear this. Go Colossal. What's good, baby? How you feeling today? I love you. I'm so glad to see you. Y'all, check out Go Colossal. The artist formerly known as Colossal. Ooh. Okay. Because he be over on his chilling, bobbing and chilling and bobbing. He's part of the gang, retro gang. He puts up the vibes for us and has funny conversations. Sometimes he go deep, and sometimes he just be on some chill. So y'all make sure y'all go check out Go Colossal. Um, but yeah, if they come in here, they gonna hear it, and I don't care. We can talk about it. We can talk about it. We can go face to face too. But that's neither here nor there, y'all. One of the admin came in and told my student to sit down, and then when we debriefed that random walkthrough, we talked about that, and she was asking me like, "Well, how come you didn't ask her to sit down?" And I said, "Because she was working, and as soon as you left, she stopped working because you what your direction disrupted her concentration." Guess what their response was? It's my job to help her learn how to concentrate while sitting the fuck down. It's my job to help her learn how to be her unnatural self. Do you understand why I left? Do you? Fuck. Like, do you get like, yo, I am saying the F word a lot right now, but this, I'm feeling it. Like, do you get why I left? I'm not doing that to no one's children. That's fucking crazy. Um, I'm glad you're feeling great. My energy started to get hype, and I know you can feel me because I was thinking about when this admin in a school system that I worked in came and told me that my approach with working with a student was incorrect because I saw naturally what that student needed for to be able to concentrate and be successful in the classroom, and she told me, "Fuck that, do it our way." So, um, the traditional school model is one way that society has a lot to say about what's acceptable and unacceptable, and to hell with all that. Seriously, it's unnatural, but we believe it. We have been conditioned to believe it is natural because it is normal. They don't like when I talk like this. They sent me right to the matrix and slapped me on my wrist, and I said, "Fuck that. I'm gonna keep saying what I'm saying." We've been conditioned to think that school is natural, and schooling and that whole entire system is a very natural thing because it has become a normal thing. We also have been conditioned to equate normal and natural as like synonyms, and they're not. It is such a normal thing to see women who look like me wear wigs and weaves. This is my natural hair. See the difference between natural and normal? We have normalized a lot of things that are not actually natural to our being. Okay. So, and if you wanna debate me on that, let's go. Where the charter school admin? Where are they? Let's have it. I would also include religion, okay, as something that causes us to do this. What is this you saying? Create a person that you have to be, or you think you have to be, in order to be more acceptable to society. Entertainment, media, music, books, movies. If you were here earlier, you may have heard when I jokingly said, I must increase my bust. Who remembers that from Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret, the Judy Bloom John. Who remembers that? I must increase my bust because when I was a preteen, I was so sold on the fact that I had to have bigger titties. Where I get that from? Because in my mind's eye, I never saw myself with big ass titties. I see myself how I see myself. But when I look outside of myself and I see women who look differently than me, it gives me the idea that maybe I need to. Should I start stuffing my bra with some tissue or something? Shit. You get what I'm saying? Like, these things, that's what he meant when he said society plays a role in this. Um, so okay. So so I said a lot just now off the dome, but when I was preparing for this, what did I write? I said, why are we creating a person to be based on society and conditioning? One may say we're doing so for the preservation of self. Okay, that's cool. So, what or who is that self? Why do we need to create another person to be when we already be someone? That self we are trying to preserve may be closer to who we are than the false concepts we build to hide that self. An example, y'all know I'm always make it personal to me, is that the um, the person I created for myself was such a high achiever, high achieving John, like who did not make mistakes. Straight A's, honor roll type John, getting every single award, meritorious type shit. I was the valedictorian. Like, don't. That's like it was on that type of vibe. And then me and the guy had me and the guy Nip. We actually had equal scores. We had tied. And I forget there was something that he did that he scored better on me, like in a one like assignment, and so they ended up giving the valedictorian to him and giving me salutatorian, but my speech was better. Um, the self that I was trying to preserve, though, is the self that was so intensely hurt by making a mistake or by not behaving in a way that was perceived acceptable by the adults in my life or by others in general in my life. Now, the word perceived here is very key because even if words are not exchanged between people, energy is passed between people and it's always felt, even by our young, even by the babies, especially by the babies. The younger we are, the less language development we have from a cognitive perspective. All we have is energy to be able to communicate and understand the world. So something happened to me. I don't remember. And I don't even need to remember all the details. I just know that something happened to me at some point when I was young that caused me to feel so embarrassed and so ashamed to make a mistake, especially in front of people, that I created a part of me to protect myself from feeling that pain, from feeling embarrassed, from feeling ashamed. You get what I'm saying? So that part that I created, that is the overachiever. Okay? That's the perfectionist. That's the part that spends so much time on a project before releasing it to ensure that there are no mistakes. But that's not who the fuck I am. Get what I'm saying? I'm a being who is just here and I make mistakes sometimes. And instead of being ashamed by them, I can use them to learn, grow, improve. But most of all, I can use them to know myself. They say that knowledge is power, but are they really being clear on what knowledge is power? Okay? Because I can read all the books. Y'all know I got the library, right? I can read all the books. But it's knowledge of self that gives you the power. Okay? So I can use it's not colossal. It's not like it's just like it's not. And I know this stream ended up being like really cursing heavy. I didn't mean to like take it there, but listen, y'all getting me raw doggy. So okay, and I gotta be the fuck raw. Because if I am not raw, then I am not going to attract who I'm supposed to be attracting. I'm talking about divine alignment. No more masks. I'm not going to fake who I am or be someone different to be more palatable to anyone. If you don't like what I'm saying, if the tone of my voice is offensive to you or disturbing you, then get the fuck out. You get what I'm saying? And that's not personal to nobody in here. I'm saying that this is what we do. And I'm no longer doing that. Because if I continue doing that, I don't get to make the aligned connections. Anyone who is still here right now and who did not get offended by what I said is probably aligned for me to be connected with. You get what I'm saying? Because you on my frequency. So, I can use that to know myself and I can send love. This is the other important step. Because remember I said, I don't need to remember what happened to cause me to feel this way. But I can send love to my inner child self who is still dealing with that part, and reparent that part and tell her, you know, some of the guidance that we received as a child was from people who maybe never felt safe to make a mistake or safe to show them publicly because of how they were raised. See, I consider that what those of that generation may have seen, felt, and experienced, and it makes sense. Remember, y'all, my mom was born in the 40s. So she was raised in a different time where being a black woman making a mistake out in the world probably maybe wasn't the safest thing. I don't know, right? So, but I can acknowledge that the reprimands that were given to me were always done in love and for what they thought was best and for my own safety and all those things. And they didn't know everything. And now I can reparent myself with what I'm now relearning. Excuse me. There it is. When you burp, that means energy is coming out. So that's out now. Thank you. I no longer have to agree with that or hold on to it because guess what? It is not who the fuck I am. Okay? And if y'all have anything else y'all want to say about that, feel free. Jump in. Remember, I'm not here to just be talking at y'all. This is definitely a conversation, a dialogue. We have one more slide of discussion. Um, Human interaction is often dictated. Um, am I here? Okay, where's my slide? Okay. Human interaction is often dictated by how we feel about how someone's behaving based on our own expectations of them, excuse a typo, and life in general. Spiritual growth occurs when we are willing to go through the places we have been avoiding and be mindful to not define ourselves with the things that happen to us. I have a lot to say about this, okay? So, something that came up for me when prepping for this chapter is as a child, being raised to be mannerly, like to have manners out in the world, and to not embarrass my mom for not being mannerly and well behaved or obedient. Having manners meant using terms like please and thank you, saying yes and no, and not saying yeah or mm hmm. See, see, see. I knew it was coming. I knew it was coming. I knew it was coming. Um, or say or after someone sneeze, um, saying bless you or God bless you, or holding the door. Were these just I don't know. If was anyone else raised in this way too? Like that these are important things to do. If you walk in, in or out, I guess somewhere, and you see someone coming behind you, you hold the door for them as a courtesy. Um, that that's not all, but that's some of the things that was instilled in me as this is how you be a good person, this is how you be mannerly, and all of that. So that's what I believed. And if I encountered people who did not do those things, and I would label them and consider them to be rude, or maybe they weren't raised right. You know what I mean? Raised right. I say that term loosely because who in the heck is who can say? Who determines that? But raised right because they weren't raised with the same teachings that I received. So they were just different. You know what I'm saying? It was just different. In the past, me perceiving them as rude would influence me to be like less warm, less open, you know what I mean? Maybe even less kind next time I encounter them, or maybe even try to make them get it right by, you know, like me and my aunt had this conversation, rest her soul. She could not stand when people would say, excuse you. Like, if we were if this is the example, like if you're in a supermarket or like in any store where there's an aisle and then you have a cart and the other person has a cart and then you're trying to get yours out, you're moving down the aisle and they don't move. I don't is this a Philly thing? Like I'm not sure, if this only was like a East Coast or a Philly thing, but it would grind her gears when someone would say, "Excuse me." I mean, excuse you, not excuse me, but excuse you, as if to excuse you out the way because you're in their way, right? So that's an example of like trying to get someone to make it right by getting them to say or do what you expect. So if you're in someone's way by their perception and then you don't move and they tell you excuse you, you're supposed to then reply with, oh my bad, excuse me, like now you've made it right. Like this is some wild shit. So 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 much of that response, y'all, for me, just talking about Joy here, that was a misguided response because that's not who I am. That's why everybody say I'm soft. They say you so soft, and that's why people think, oh, you too nice. No, I just like love. I just love. I don't think that anyone deserves, to be treated poorly. I don't know why? But anyway, um, so much of my response was misguided. You know what I'm saying? Because the truth is that everyone isn't raised being taught in the same way. Some people are unaware. Maybe they were unaware that I said something. Maybe they didn't hear me. Or maybe they were preoccupied with their own stuff. Maybe they don't see me coming through because something just happened to them devastatingly in their family and they're just outside shopping for a distraction. I don't know what's going on with them. Um, Responding with, I want to say, I want to read what Tiffy said. She said that it was different. It was a different time then for sure. I know the way I was raised when responding to any adult, what as a response was just not it. Exactly. I remember what was not, because what was almost like you're perceived as you're being disrespectful, like a flippant kind of response, as if like the adult maybe is bothering you or getting on your nerves or something, and so you're like, what, you know what I'm saying? But it's like, even if that's not how you intended it, I think that that's sometimes how that came across where I grew up. I remember my niece. I talked about her a lot this stream. Shout out to niece. Um, she sometimes would respond, "Yeah," and my mom would always correct her and say, "It's yes, not yeah." And I know where my niece got that from. Interesting. Okay, I'll check on her today. I'll check on her today. Okay. Um, I know where. Is the siren loud? Is it overpowering my voice? It's almost finished. Um, I know where she got that from, but I also know that she didn't mean any disrespect to my mother or any adult when she would respond that way. You know what I'm saying? Um, Responding with, okay, thank you, Colossal. Because the siren was super loud in my ear. I'm like, dang, should I yell? All right. So they are. That's why you heard, like, no, real talk recap. Like, I peeped that signal. I peeped that as a signal. I know what it meant too. So I know. Listen, signs always be around us. So check this out. The siren was loud, right? That shit was crazy. I got you. I'll mute next time so it can pass. Um, Responding with is a big one. Let me tell y'all why. Um, because got knocked out of me, not physically. My mom, I I was raised in such a unique way. Can we have an inner childhood stream one day? I want to talk about this. I did not. My mom wasn't physically discipliner. I didn't ever get a beating or anything like that. I was not raised that way, and um, that caused a lot of conversation as a child. Like people wondering why. It was just like weird. Anyway, and I didn't need that kind of discipline. Is that even fucking discipline? No. But anyway, so my mom didn't physically knock out of me, but she did very intensely make sure that I knew that I have to use my words. I have to say yes and no. Okay? You have to use words. Don't be using them sounds because it was rude or it made you look dumb. You know what I'm saying? Like this is what was I was taught. Now, Had my mama and my caregivers been aware of human design, right? Which, I study human design. I'm a human design specialist now. I serve as a human design specialist. Careful to say what, I am, but in one way that I serve the community is as a human design specialist. And had she been aware of that, she would have known that my human design type is a generator. And me responding that way is how I respond with my truth, because the generator has a defined sacral center, and the sacral center knows its truth and responds quickly in the moment with sound. Sound bypasses language. It's so primitive, it's primal. Remember, we talked about how before we had language, we had energy. So that isn't me being disrespectful. That's you asking me in the moment, do you want to go to the movies? And if I say that was clearly a no. I don't need to go to the movies. I don't have to think about it. The, with the generator, I'm speaking about the human design modality. With the generator, if you ask the generator a yes or no question, because that's how we respond to things. If you ask us a yes or no question and we immediately start to respond with some words, we have bypassed our truth in the sacral response center, and we're trying to answer in a way that we may feel like is more acceptable for society. Maybe, I don't know. You see what I'm saying? So that part there, but it wasn't until I became an adult before I could give a response back. Can y'all tell me what adult? Can you tell me what defined adult? Was it a certain age, or was it a certain level of responsibility? Where was what threshold did you cross over, Siffy B and Colossal, where you were adult enough to be able to have a say and respond back to your parents? I'm curious to know. I'm very curious to know, y'all. And I'm going to say this again, and I mean this with all the love and no disrespect. I'm curious to know because I don't have that experience. You see, my father transitioned when I was 4 and my mom when I was 21. So I've always been speaking up and saying what I need to say, and not having my parent to be a sounding board here on earth. Communing with it energetically is different, but here on earth, I can't pick up the phone and say, hey, or have them pick up the phone and we have a dialogue and be able to push that boundary or see where that boundary is. So that is specifically, family, why I am curious. Okay? I don't have that experience of really being an adult child to my adult parents. So for Colossal, it was when you became a parent yourself. Okay. So now that you have children, you're grown enough to make decisions and you're grown enough to handle things. That's the idea. I could see that. Okay. Anyone else have experience with that? With okay. Okay, cool. Thank you for sharing it. And thank you for sharing it. I remember in my previous relationship, which I talk about with y'all a lot, and y'all know she's still in my life. She was here the other day when we was on stream, and she said, "Hey, not bestie, but y'all saw her." Um, One time, this was early in the relationship, and when I say early in the relationship, I'm talking about this is probably like 10 years ago when this situation happened, and something was going on with her, and it was like a thing, like a situation that we need to talk about. So we were talking it out, we're talking it out, and we're talking it out. And I remember her saying, "Okay, I need to see what my mom thinks about this." And I was offended. I didn't like that because I was just like, we just talked about it, right? And then she just like, okay, but I can't talk to my mom about it. And I'm like, well, why would you need to do that? And then she's like, because that's my mom. And I said, but you're an adult. And she said, but that's my mom. You get what I'm saying? So my experience was just so different because it had been so many years since I had a mom or a dad to go and consult about with serious things. So I had to sit with that for a second and say, Oh, well, that's why I'm approaching it this way. I see it as maybe not necessary because it's not something that has been necessary for me. But for where she is in her relationship with her mother and how she does things, that's something that she needs to do. I can't I can't say shit about that. And then guess what? I was able to start going to her mom too when things when I needed a more type of like maternal and parental support figure. You know what I'm saying? But yes, and the thing about it is colossal. It's not even both sides. There's like infinite sides. There are so many different levels and spectrums to this. But I just wanted to share that to say like my experience is different because I don't we tend to see things based primarily our first interaction or engagement with something usually is going to be based on our own experience with it. You know, like the other day, I mentioned something about having some avocado in here, and Bestie's reaction was like, "That's nasty. I can't do that." You know what I'm saying? And it's like, okay, but some people like avocado, or they wouldn't be eating it. But in that moment, she wasn't considering that the reason why I even mentioned avocado was because I find it tasty and I would like it. The only thing she could think about in that first moment was her her own experience with it. So I acknowledge that, and that's why we talk about um, what helps us to see both sides, as Colossal just mentioned, is or even all sides, is remembering that. Where is that? Remember that quote, y'all? I showed y'all this quote a little while ago. Between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. So, if you would like to be able to get to that point where you can see both sides before you have reacted, right? Start to acknowledge the space between stimulus and response, you know? Um, because doing that does really support our growth and our spiritual liberation. So thank you for saying that, Colossal. What do I go to? Okay, boom. Okay, we're almost finished, and then we got to get to our taste test. Did y'all know we was doing a taste test today? So, society perpetuates a lot of these messages in many ways to keep the program going. Oh, yeah, I told you I had a lot of stuff to say today. One of these is the idea that girls who grow up without fathers will be promiscuous. Okay? I'm speaking about how being mindful to not define ourselves with the things that happen to us. Before I continue, I see something in the chat, retro recap. I lived through that every day, always thinking about both sides of the situation before I approach or say something. Yeah. And you have the energetic makeup that supports you with being able to master doing that with having the sun in Gemini. It will be a pillar of your personality because the sun is personality energy. So it'll be a pillar of your personality that allows you to always think through and see multiple sides of a thing. You just saw a video about this topic on Facebook. Which topic? Because literally, I'm thinking about three topics right now that are coming up in this conversation. Um, so I want to know which topic. Can also be on Facebook. He a Facebook head. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I appreciate it. I want to see it. Um, okay. Um, so being mindful to not define ourselves with the things that happen to us. This is so big because it's like, oh, I didn't finish college, and then, that's a spiral, right? But I want to talk more about my own experience because I'm always going to do that. One of those ideas that society perpetuates that maybe wasn't our original idea, or I don't know, but that girls who grew up without a father are going to be promiscuous. Y'all remember that song by Tierra Marie called No Daddy? You may remember it. You may not. I don't know. It was in I think came out in the 2000s. Now, my father was not physically present from the time I was 4 on. I had just turned 4 too. Um, and um, thank you, Colossal. Um, so in that song, the whole premise of the song is her dad wasn't present, and that's the reason why she's wild and don't give a fuck about how she's out here living her life. So that's an example of defining self with what's happened to you. Okay. And so what he's saying is be mindful not to do that. My father transitioned, y'all. Like y'all know, when I was 4, and I inherently didn't feel that way about myself. Like I inherently didn't feel that way. But I remember being a child in school and hearing that language um, often, like, oh yeah, like, oh, the reason why she um, is like that, promiscuous or whatever, is because she didn't have a father in the home. And and I didn't have a father in the home. So I started to wonder, like, is this a thing? See, I started to explore the idea a lot more the more I saw it displayed as a collective idea in society. Like, that's how powerful energy is. So, I wondered if there was a pass. Is that a pass for promiscuity? Like, is that what that is? But I don't see it that way no more. I see it now more so as a way to condition young girls. What I'm saying is this idea in collective society that, oh, if there's no father in the home, then a girl is going to go buck wild. I don't think that that's true. I think that it is a way to condition young girls who may be vulnerable or have a vulnerable spot in their heart, for love that they may not have received from that paternal figure, which could potentially send them to look for love in misguided ways or from misaligned people. But I don't think it's a truth. It's not an inherent truth about who a person is. So we got to be careful about those things. Um, Mindful. When I say careful, I mean like mindful. So our discussion, fam, of course, always answering the question, what's coming up for you? And the next part, I really want y'all to do this. And again, you do not need to do it on the Padlet, but I would love for you to do it for yourselves, even if it's just a personal exercise. List all the labels you have ever used to identify with or define yourself. Excuse me. And you can put some in the chat if you like, but I mean, like, any of them. Mom, excuse me, dad, boy, sister, cousin, student, employee, teacher. I'll use that one. Employee, teacher. Ooh, divine alignment. Thank you, Source. I meant to say this earlier in the discussion and I forgot. When I left the classroom, um, people would ask me, like, what do I do, or um, like what I did for work, and I'll continue to say that I'm a teacher. Because I teach. Like, that's something that I came here to do. I came here on the planet to teach, but I got rerouted by the system and allowed myself to become an employee who was employed as a teacher. And sometimes it could be like, okay, now that I am not employed as a teacher, does that mean I'm no longer a teacher? Like, I sat with that when I left the classroom for a long time. And I realized, no, because you're still teaching. You're just teaching on your terms and in a way that's more aligned with who you are, in a way that is more anchored to truth and not conditioning and not um, systems and the dependency on systems. So I really want y'all to do that one. Think of all the labels that you have ever used to identify and define yourself. Just list them. And some things you can do with that list are like really look at it and say like how like ask yourself, how is this me? Or ask yourself like, are some of these things labels that I've built in order to protect myself, protect the real me? Think about it. Are you living as who you authentically are or as the person you've created? So, this question, the next question, kind of helps to inform what you've done after you've listed all those labels. Um, and are there any circumstances you've identified with that you are willing to release as a part of who you are? So, and remember, we talked about my example of that is, identifying with um, a circumstance like um, my father passing, not allowing that, or my mother passing, not allowing that to define um, the rest of my life or my experiences. So, there's your discussion, family. Those are your discussion questions. Feel free to take you a screenshot